Hello everyone, how's it going? So it turns out we are never going to get an Outriders 2 as it was one of the projects that was cancelled during the June layoffs of People Can Fly. Now, I'm one of the rare people who actually liked Outriders a lot, not the gameplay, but I really like the lore behind the game, the idea that you're on this alien planet, the way it functions, the native life forms of the planet, what humanity basically did, which is what humans do best. I know it's a cliche, but let's face it, if humans found an alien world, what do you think we would do first? But regardless, I thought the lore of the game and the way it was established in that way was really interesting, and I thought it would have gone a little further down the line. But let's face it, the writing on the wall was there. The game, I remember when it was being marketed, when this game first came out, I was super excited for it. It was marketed like a live service looter shooter game like Borderlands, only with a mix of Warframe. Well, I guess Warframe would be the more apt comparison, but it was nothing like that. It was a third person action shooter more akin to like Space Marine, or I wouldn't say Gears of War. It kind of, the cover shooter wasn't really wasn't really effective. It was more about using superpowers, so it would be more like Warframe. And they also marketed it as a live service game, despite the fact it wasn't a live service game. At least People Can Fly was just like, it's not a live service game. I think it was miscommunication between the community and the developers, but either way, I kept hearing everywhere that it was a live service looter shooter game, and it wasn't like that. You would get loot and you would upgrade your character, but it was the most baseline thing you can possibly imagine, like in Final Fantasy, where you get new equipment and you just equip the best equipment there is. There was an end game where you fight a bunch of powerful enemies, but it was just your standard third person action game. And it also didn't help when the game launched, because they used cloud computing to try and offset a lot of the game's technical systems. It was a nightmare to get into a match. That's right, you had to use the online system in order to get into the game, even if you wanted to play by yourself. There was co-op action, which I think a lot of people would have enjoyed playing, like drop-off co-op like with Borderlands, but like I said, it was like a nightmare just to play the game, let alone like get friends to play with you. I feel like if it worked on day one, it would have got a more positive reception. I know a lot of people would say it was because of Game Pass, because it was on Game Pass day one. I disagree with that statement, because we've seen games like Stalker 2, I believe that's the one. Yeah, Stalker 2 and Expedition 33 is the biggest example where people still bought the game, even though they had it on Game Pass. Literally, it was sold out everywhere. You buying a physical copy of that game is next to impossible. So I disagree with the idea that people say that Game Pass cannibalizes sales, when people will actively go out to get a physical copy of a game they really love just to own it or purchase it on another platform. But yeah, a new report claimed that one of People Can Fly's canceled projects was Outriders 2. The report comes from a relatively new outlet, the Thumb Worlds, but Insider Gaming can collaborate the details. However, footage and screenshots sent to the Insider Gaming of the project under the condition that it would not be made public showed that the game wasn't in a stage deemed nearly finished as initially reported, so probably early alpha. The game was under the codename Project Gemini, was in motion capture mocap stage of development earlier this year. So it wasn't even near to being done. So maybe 3-4 years, and that's being generous. Because I know People Can Fly are working on several projects. They're working one with PlayStation. They're definitely working on Gears of War E-Day. So they have other projects. So yeah. As for why Gemini Outriders 2 was cancelled, the reason it has not been publicly announced, but several sources have stated that the issue stemmed from the alleged funding and communication issues with game publisher Square Enix. Yeah, they're the ones who published the game, and I think this is the way I see it. I think Square Enix was expecting this game to be the next Borderlands or the next looter shooter game that would be able to catapult into a new franchise. But like I said, the game did not launch in a good state, didn't have good reception, and it just generally didn't resonate with a lot of players. On top of it, Square Enix hasn't been doing too hot recently. They do have EA levels of expectations for their sales, and even though I love Square Enix's recent release of games, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Final Fantasy XVI, Octopath Traveler, like whenever people say like Square Enix doesn't invest in turn-based games, I'm like, they had Octopath Traveler, Dragon Quest, they had turn-based games way before Expedition 33 released in recent memory. But you know what? Square Enix has a lot of high, lofty expectations, especially for Final Fantasy, which apparently isn't doing that well. Granted, they released Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth exclusively on PlayStation before they brought it to PC, and when they released it on PC, it had a lot of technical issues, especially 16. I've seen the Steam reviews. A lot of people like saying this is not optimized. What the hell? What's going on here? And on top of it, they released it on the Switch, I believe, Final Fantasy VII Remake. I don't know if it's there or not, but I don't know why you would play that game on the Switch. Like, when you can get a Steam Deck and play it in a vastly superior quality. That's just my opinion. But also, Rebirth released exclusively for the PlayStation, and Square Enix is starting to realize, hey, exclusive console deals just aren't cutting it anymore, so they have to release it on multiple platforms, which is what I think they should have done. But I don't know if this is right or wrong. I'm probably remembering this wrong, but I do remember that Square Enix said that if it wasn't for Sony, there wasn't going to be a Final Fantasy VII Remake, because people have been clamored, like I've been clamoring it ever since they showed the tech demo for the PlayStation 3, which was just a tech demo. They made that very clear, even though everyone was hoping for a remake someday, and they finally gave us the remake. And I believe they said that it was because of Sony's funding that we got the remake. But either way, Square Enix has not been doing so hot recently. Like, Final Fantasy has been doing a lot of heavy lifting. Also, if you like turn-based RPGs, especially if you loved old-school Final Fantasy games and Breath of Fire, go play Octopath Traveler. Like, I beg people to play that game, because every person who loves those retro RPG games love that game, including myself. I'll push that game till the day I die. Project Gemini was one of the 2 projects canceled in June, resulting in layoffs of 50 people. Last year, People Can Fly conducted layoffs that resulted in a loss of 120 more employees. Dude, it's been a bloodbath. I just did a video where Microsoft laid off 9,000 people, closed several studios. Dude, like, a lot of people are cutting fat right now because games are more expensive than ever to develop. Game costs are rising, which results in lower sales. Like, everything is going to hell, except for indie. Indie is flourishing, apparently. At the time of writing, People Can Fly are known for working on 5 other projects. Gears of War EA, like I said. They're working with Crafton. Damn. Sony and a VR project, Project Bastion. So they have a lot of projects in the fire right now. So I'm going to, like I stated, I really think it's because Square Enix just decided, hey, we're not going to do this, and we're just going to either put it on ice or maybe do it some other time. Because you never know, they might resurrect this IP for a later date. I like the lore of this game, and it's much easier to go back into the back catalog of your canceled or buried IPs than to create something horribly original. Like, I did see an interesting video by Critical Drinker where he said we may be living in a world where we're at a cultural, I forgot what he called it. Well, it wasn't Critical Drinker, it was someone within his video who said a death spiral of culture, where, like in Star Trek, well, in Star Trek, they had no idea what culture would be like, but they kept talking about how old things, they would just bring up old pop stars and old things like that, and the person was arguing that maybe we're reaching that type of lifestyle where everyone's going back to classic IPs and resurrecting them rather than creating something new because it's too risky, or they just don't have any faith in it, and it's starting to become that. So maybe this might be resurrected later down the line for all the wrong reasons, and maybe they'll learn from their mistakes and not pull like Sly Cooper 4, where they completely ruined Penelope and Bentley's character. I'm still butthurt by that. But that's it for me. I'm sad that this IP kind of crashed and burned, but the market dictates what happens. Just because I liked it doesn't mean everyone else has to like it, and if not enough people like it, that's just how things go when it comes to entertainment. Like, it's like with Metroid Other M. I like that game, but a lot of people didn't. It is what it is. I like some bad things. Grave Encounters, one of my favorite C-rated horror films, and I still watch that on occasion when Halloween comes around. But that's it for me. Tell me what you think about this. Did you like or hate Outriders? Did you play it? Love to hear other people's opinions, but that's it for me. Goodbye. Have a good one.